The good old days of popcorn and candy at Sears. Kids today will never know about the dangers of box TVs. Can't argue with that. Having family tape over a show that you recorded. Or playing a tape and having no idea what's actually on it. I don't feel like posting today, so look at this. That's pretty much what these were for, when the teacher didn't want to have an actual class. Admit it, at least one time in your life, you seriously tried to move an object using the Force. Kids today will never know the legend that is Booger. If you know who he is, you know what to do. Journey has never won a single Grammy. Kanye West has won 24, and that tells me all I need to know about the Grammys. I can actually hear this blanket. Absolutely can. Not a cell phone in sight. Just two dudes living in the moment saying, "Brother," and "yeah," repeatedly. What the predator sees after 15 seconds of chasing me. I think this meme would fit most of us these days. Name an 80s song with the word love in the title. You could go with "I Love a Rainy Night," or maybe "I Want to Know What Love Is" by Foreigner. What song would you guys choose? Please let my daughter buy Benson & Hedges Light 100s for me, Mrs. Kinney. Millennium Falcon breakfast-shaped plate. If this is supposed to be breakfast, why is there so many beans in this picture? Back when they were wrapped in the tinfoil packages. The miracle is this: the more we share, the more we have. Leonard Nimoy. Imagine being 8 years old and seeing this on TV. How could you not become a pro wrestling fan? The old 96er. Make John Candy proud. Speaking of steak, how many of y'all remember the all-you-could-eat steak dinner at Ponderosa? Astronaut Neapolitan ice cream sandwich. Freeze-dried, ready-to-eat space food. Why was it back in the day that any food that was freeze-dried was advertised as space food? Name a more iconic band. I'll wait. Dazed and Confused came out in 1993 and was based in 1976. A comparable movie today would be based in 2007. Been unalived for over a decade. Hasn't made Ghost 2 yet. Maybe not, but the movie Ghost was pretty good. Back when equalizers were their own separate unit. If you know what this is from, punch the right buttons and drop it in the comments. Our parents in the 70s and 80s. How many people remember these? I've been on Facebook for 16 years. I remember when this was all just farmland. Of course, pun intended. Being almost 50 is all about slip-on shoes, pants that stretch, and not drinking too much water before bed. You can see the title on the first one. It says Robin Hood. I don't know if I ever actually saw that one before. Here's a couple more of the cereal box records. They're just a collector's item these days, but I still find it kind of cool how they actually played. By the way, you still owe Columbia House for those 30 cassettes you got for 1 cent in 1985. How many of you also got the 20 CDs from BMG Music back in the 90s? I used those to replace some of my cassettes. When everything moved from CDs to only digital audio, at least we was able just to rip our CDs into MP3 files. Told some kids today that I was older than Google, and they thought it was a joke. If you were born before September 4th, 1998, congrats, you're older than Google. Well, this is for you millennials, because us Gen X are older than the internet, let alone Google. Heck, this is more for Gen Z than it is even millennials. Come with me if you want to live long and prosper. Yeah, that was a really bad attempt. I feel like Willie Nelson's been the same age my whole life. I agree with this. How many of you guys remember this search engine? I wonder if it's even still around. I forgot all about it until I saw this. Klinger, now 83 years old. Hot Lips Houlihan is 80. Raise your hand if you feel old. A cereal so good, you won't care if it's shredding the roof of your mouth. I'll be honest, guys. I was never a big fan of Captain Crunch. I think Lucky Charms or Rice Krispies was my two favorites. And of course Corn Flakes, as long as we had some bananas, which is actually my favorite cereal today. Compute's Gazette, August 1984. Just say no. If you know who this is, drop it in the comments. Want to know why this record sold 45 million copies? Because every time you lent it to a friend, you never got it back. Steve Martin turned 78 this year, which is crazy because I thought he was 78 in 1989. If he got a little bit of a tan, he really wouldn't look that much different. Except for this big flash, my mom had a camera just like this for years and years. Live to crush your enemies. Laugh as they are driven before you. Love the laminations of their women. Well, that puts a new twist on the live, laugh, love phrase that you see on house decorations all over the place these days. Here's another really nice reel-to-reel. When you realize your streaming services cost more than cable did, and you're still watching commercials. This deal is getting worse all the time. I absolutely agree with this. It is getting worse all the time. Now on some services, you have to pay even more if you don't want to see the ads. Like here on YouTube, for instance. You can get YouTube Premium, and then you don't see any more ads. Which is actually a good thing for us content creators. Believe it or not, YouTube actually pays us more for people who watch our channel that have YouTube Premium than what they pay us for the advertisements that's shown. How we used to deal with stress in school. True, but the eraser was the first thing to go. I hope you all are enjoying your 20s, 30s, and 40s, because in your 50s, that check engine light is going to be pretty bright. That third digit almost looks like a 0, but it's actually a 7. Once you know that, it makes a lot more sense. Kids, we're bored. Me, listen, your grandparents didn't even know where I was from 1983 to 1988. Go find some sticks to play with or something. Brand new Chevy truck for $4,700. Too bad you can't buy a truck these days for a reasonable price, even with inflation and everything else. These days, a decent truck costs you $50,000 for most base models, which is stupid. Guys, I don't know if this is a real advertisement. It sure as heck looks like a real advertisement. It even has the Atari 1981 copyright down here. And even the details in the ad are all centered around Stevie Wonder. I mean, I don't know. You know, most people these days, it's going to make satire. Isn't going to make something about the 80s and make it look this good either. I think this is probably real. I don't know though. What do you guys think? Gotta love the irony of a generation raised on making prank phone calls, only to be terrorized by daily robocalls. No, I don't have to love that irony. Besides, what few prank phone calls that all of us done combined is nothing in comparison to the amount of calls by the telemarketers these days. How could anyone make such a, we'll just say, poor design unless it was completely intentional? I don't see any way that this couldn't be completely intentional. And there's a lot more similar things these days. Well, this was actually for a different series, but have you guys heard about this? I mean, this is beyond absurd. If this was anywhere close to being a real fight, I still think Tyson would beat the crap out of him. What's your guys' opinions? Kids these days will never know the struggle. You know, we always talk about the slow speeds and the sounds the modem makes and all this stuff. But how many of us forgotten just how many times you had to have it dialed just to try to get a connection? How many of us actually went in and manually changed the amount of attempts that it would make before having to start over? I'd always set it to like 99. That way I didn't have to keep watching it and start it over each time that it didn't work. Kids today want cell phones. We wanted this. Who all remembers these stupid tear-off tabs? Unlike the pop tabs that came later, which is the same thing we have these days, these tabs actually pulled off and you tossed them in the trash. These tabs actually pulled out and were a separate piece from the can. Everybody pull them out and throw them on the ground. My dad hated these things back in the day because he had a small gas station and everybody pull them off and throw them all over the ground, and he had to go out there and clean them up every day. And because of their odd shape and how light they were, they're actually kind of hard to sweep up with a broom. A lot harder than bottle caps. Beetlejuice sequel praised for using actual demonic forces over CGI. Yes, this is satire. However, these days, it wouldn't be surprising. 1991. 2024. If you know where this house is from, drop it in the comments. An original Karen. If you know, you know. Millennials, you don't understand how bad words hurt. Literally everyone born before 1995. If you don't make s'mores like this, you're doing it wrong. I'm not going to say you're doing it wrong, but that is an intriguing idea. 96.4 of Little League home runs in the 1980s were hit with these two bats. The only baseball bat I ever owned as a kid was a Little League size Louisville Slugger wooden bat. I still keep it in my truck to this day. My mom still has a stool that's exactly like this one, except it's a little different color. If you haven't used these, you can't fully appreciate today's technology. Kids today will never know the pain of destroying your thumb and still having no clue if the battery had power. Sorry I'm getting so hoarse, guys. How we used to get to school in the 80s. You're going to get a manicure when, the thing about this, only Gen X and probably early millennials would even know what this means. I'm sure everyone here remembers these, and they were a heck of a lot better back then than the new crappy versions that they have these days. They make them out of something completely different now, and that's why they're not near as loud, and sometimes they don't even go off. Oh, to be eating a Dave single in the sunroom of a 1990s Wendy's restaurant. This was great when it was fall and wintertime, but in the summer, you wouldn't dare sit over in those tables. Do you remember this? Yeah, I absolutely do. I still have one, and it works perfectly. If I can ever remember, I'll take a picture of it and put it in the next episode. Our TVs were never stolen in the 80s. I've had some similar memes to this in past episodes, and there was a good number of comments of people saying that they were stolen and things. And it's true, they were some stolen. However, usually it was when the people were on vacation, and I seriously doubt you're going to see one guy go into the house, throw this up on his shoulder, and go running out the door with it. There's no lock that can't be broken through, and anything can be stolen if someone is determined enough and has the time and doesn't care if they're seen or not, and usually if they have an extra person or two to help them. The world we grew up in no longer exists. Click on one of the videos above to help support the channel. Please hit that like button and subscribe. I thank you all for watching. This is Akorn, over and out.